Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 15th of October, comes to you from London. And quite a lot of red on the screen. We did see markets falling back a little bit yesterday. The dollar has actually had a good week, really. It's been climbing back to short-term bullish above the cloud on the 60-minute chart. Remembering this is my long-term, my medium-term, and my short-term view of the market with the corresponding point and figure charts and targets. So the dollar is just starting to show signs that it did bottom in that level that we saw in September, and it has just found a floor and slowly recovering. So still bearish on the charts in the long and medium term, not on the point and figure charts bullish, so a bit of a mixed picture. We do still have some downside targets hanging over us, but it's had a good week. Looking at the euro, it's 117 against that weaker dollar, 117.30 this morning, and so it's just falling. Made lows yesterday. It'll be interesting to see today whether we take those lows out. So we're just looking like we've topped there. Sterling sitting almost at 130 dead, so we are just holding on to that short-term bullish position. That stronger dollar, of course, has had a bit of an impact, but we are seeing that sterling is relatively strong. And against the euro, we're above the 110 level. This seems to be a key level for euro sterling, and nudging the 111 level. So we've had a sharp rise yesterday against the euro. Looking at Bitcoin, we're sitting at $11,300. So we're just holding on here, but we are just wandering back towards short-term bearish. But for the moment, the long and medium-term charts are bullish. The US markets yesterday, we saw the S&P 500 down around 0.2%, is just pushing for new highs. We might even see a weekly closing high, not enough yet to get to a daily close. And if we look at the Nasdaq, much the same picture here as well. Still looking bullish despite just pulling back yesterday. And we saw the Dow was down 0.6%, much the same. Looking at the futures this morning, we are seeing the futures falling, and we've got the S&P future down just over 0.5%, and the Nasdaq E-mini down 1%. So it does look pretty likely that US markets are going to open quite a bit lower. So that's just what the futures are telling us. And that means the VIX volatility is rising. We're up to 27. 30 seems to be the key number here on what we call the fear index. If we're above 30, the market is fearful. If we're below 30, we seem to be okay. These were the levels we were at last year. We're still more than double these levels this year. So we're still holding on to quite a lot of fear. Stocks are falling quite heavily in Europe this morning. The FTSE future down nearly 2% in the UK. The DAX in Germany, the cash market, down 2%, and the CAC Quarante also down just under 2%. So we are just seeing a fall away there. Coronavirus restrictions coming in Europe is starting to have an impact. Japan was down 0.7%, and the Hang Seng Hong Kong market has really underperformed this year, was down 2%. So quite big falls there. That short-term chart's still quite bullish, but the long-term trend for Hong Kong is still not great. Chinese stocks are down 0.25%. They just seem to be struggling in this sideways pattern, having jumped in the summer. And the Sensex was down 1%. So we are just seeing negative sentiment globally, really. Oz bucked the trend. It was up 0.5%, but the Australian market still has a lot to do to get back to anywhere near its the highs that we saw earlier in the year. Gold is sitting at $1,900, so not much change there. Just still short-term bearish, but the long-term and medium-term charts are good. And if we look at silver, we're seeing here just that fall away as well. So we rocketed this year, but we've just really pulled back. Still bullish on these medium and long-term charts. The short-term chart bearish. We do have a downside target of around 3%. We've got big downside targets on the long-term chart, but this latest one is not yet activated. If we go lower than this low, that's 15% lower. Looking at US 10-year yields, they are falling back quite a bit this week. We're back to 0.7%. We were nudging 0.8% only at the start of the week. So we are at the end of last week. So we are just seeing this fall away in bond yields. So that's quite significant as well. Taking a look at the energy mix now, we've got Brent Crude sitting down 0.75% this morning. It's held up pretty well this week. We were neutral because it was a pretty hard call, and we can see here that we've risen slightly on the week, but overall it's not a very clear trend this week. And the same with WTI. And the big thing, of course, is will we make a lower low? That's what we're really watching for on Brent, is if we make a lower low. Having risen sharply, then flattened out, then fallen, the failure to make new highs is what's most worrying for the longer term view. And of course, if we make new lows, that would be, in Dow theory terms, a worry. US gas fell back quite heavily yesterday, so we saw nat gas rising there very sharply last week, falling back this week, and it's up again 2% this morning. So we are seeing a lot of volatility in the price, but for the moment we are short-term bearish below the cloud. If we look at RBOB gasoline, this has looked quite bearish this week, and we've still below the cloud here. We've got some new upside targets. We did have quite a sharp recovery yesterday, giving those short-term targets, but we are just seeing gasoline prices falling away as well, obviously very driven by the crude price. Looking at coal, we're sitting at 58.55. We're bearish below the cloud here as well. We struggled to get through $61 on coal, so coal is still looking pretty bearish. The big story this week has been emissions. In technical terms, we broke that 26 level last week. That was pretty clear support on Friday. We did manage to just get back above it on Friday, but then this week we've been below it all week, and we're this morning coming back to test this 25 level. We've got 4 downside targets to watch for. We have got a new upside target on yesterday's relief rally. That's to 27. But that was also showing up on the 60-minute chart. That's now been negated. So that target does look like it's going to come off the cards, and we will then just see this move. And more we're seeing the cloud chart showing us bearish territory for emissions. So this week has been a very critical week. 25 is a very critical level. We've got downside targets here now, 23.94, 24.55, and then 20. So it does look like emissions are slowly taking that break. And if we look at the trend here for emissions, it is certainly quite worrying. So really a change of picture there. Gas prices looking pretty good. We were bullish on gas, UK MBP just pushing higher, so just nudging 40 pence per therm. And if we look at TTF front month, much the same picture. We're pushing higher there. Winter gas is still just struggling to make new highs, but it is showing itself to look better there as well. Looking at gas pool, we see here also just pushing higher, so European gas prices all higher. German power sitting below that 40 euro mark now quite a lot. We've played with 40 euros this week, and again we are just seeing that fall away in line with emissions. We are actually just breaking below on the cloud. So we've got quite a lot of support here on the long-term chart, but we do have to just accept that there are these downside targets now hanging over us. And of course that's filtering through to other power markets. We're seeing the quarterly contract for German power below the cloud, that's lower. French power, we're also seeing that lower as well. That's really been the weakening of euro. It is up slightly this morning, bucking the trend, but on the whole, French power is looking pretty bearish. Dutch power, of course, following German power, breaking out of trend. That's not good news. And if we look at Nordic Power, we're down 3% here today, so that's taken us back below the cloud on the short term, as has the quarterly contract, so we're looking lower there. Czech power has actually also broken down, as you would expect following German power, and UK power also just falling away this week as well. That's it for today. Keep an eye on this Brent crude price, and of course all eyes on the US market open. Looks like with the futures we are going to open quite a bit lower. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, bye for now.